Docking request accepted.
Good morning, New Eden. Today is October 14th, 2025, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have a very special guest, Rots Mijnwerker. How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Doing well, and you are back up and running for CSM again. How's that run going so far?
It's going. Third time's the charm. It's fun as always. It's always great.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you on here. And one of the things I've been kind of starting out with is what is the CSM to you from your point of view, and what do you think they can accomplish? Is there any accomplishments that you think that CCP really listened to the CSM about? Kind of give us a breakdown of what they are, what they've done, what they're capable of doing, what they're maybe not capable of doing.
There's a lot there. CSM's a group of players who, on paper, are there to help suggest and steer CCP as they go through their chosen path of expansions and changes to the game. I think it's a pretty cool thing. Now, the flip side of that is I think they're actually really listening to the CSM. That's why I keep running, at least in the last 3 years, because I played for a long time, but never wanted to run until about 3 years ago. And so, like, this year, there's people like Young Puke, Sadao, a bunch of the dudes who got selected were really great people, Dujak, a bunch of the current CSM just have come back, and I talk to them often. They're like, hey, this was great. We worked on these things, or we talked about these things, and, within reason, obviously. They can't tell you everything, but a lot of them can say, hey, I felt listened to. That's kind of the reason I keep running. But yeah, that's the CSM in a nutshell. I think I still want to see carrier changes. There's still some other stuff, I'd like them to work on, but maybe this is the year they do, and maybe I'm there. That would be fun.
Give him a combat role, because the jump drive was an interesting concept. The ability, one thing that I did do with the carriers that I thought it was actually kind of fun, just using the new mechanics, was me and a buddy in Hey Die Less and Faction Warfare Galente space, when the border was right up, which it's back up on top of us again, which I love, actually. I just come to AD leads, let's fight. And we took out 2 carriers and a small fleet, and then what we did is went to an open, and then we booshed off 300 kilometers, and then we booshed off another 600 kilometers after dropping our fighters off and assigning them to the people in the thing, and then just kept on booshing around. We had like interceptors coming out trying to come and catch us, but even if they did catch us, like, nobody had a scram on them, and if they did have a scram on them, we were able to get them off. So we were just the long range support that was like, you can't drop on top of us, you can't get to us, you can't warp to us or anything like that unless you boosh out to us. And then we can just boosh again too. So
that's one of the cases where it works. Like we did, I had a couple of our members, Jake and Quantum, who did like Nidhoggers, nano Nidhoggers, and they did the same thing, but in the ESS.
Oh yeah,
in nullsec, and it was fun right up until the application on the fighters kind of just bums you out. You're like, oh, this isn't as good as I wish it would be. But
it looks like it's like 3 stabbers, but nope, it's actually really poorly tracking 3 thrasher stabbers.
and that is the change I suggest. I like maybe locking changes, and maybe like application changes and small tweaks, and that's it. Like you can make the carrier at least viable.
Well, I'm surprised, like, one of the things that they kept on nerfing the carriers because they didn't want it to be a PvE boat. And I'm like, why not? Like, this is better. It's better to have. I feel like it's better to
Agree.
have supers and carriers outdoing sites, because those are the big toys that get nice and hit, and you know, and like one of the biggest problems that ended up happening was that just application is just complete shit on them. So they stopped
like,
working for PvE at all, basically.
It's like they overtuned it, because like they were a problem for what they were hitting at the time. Like they were hitting so much so easily.
Yeah.
I think there's like a middle ground there.
Yeah.
But then also, like, I want to see them in sites. Like, I'm tired of hunting Ishtars. Like it's just, you know, Marauders were fun because there was something kept them there. You know, there was the Bastion, but even Marauders aren't a thing. So you're chasing Gilas and Ishtars and Frat Space for weeks on end, you know. Whereas you could probably blops onto a carrier. You know, you just came in, dropped probes, and warped to a carrier. It was pretty fun for a while there. So I'd like to see something that works for them.
Yeah, the art of high tech said that they used to get killed by fighters in an interceptor. They used to be scary, yeah. And
It's true.
That's
you just
too
sit on a
much.
gate and Goons kills you. That is too much. But like, I mean, it would be nice that your fighters do something on them. I think buffing carriers buffs the escalation chain too. Like, carriers should kill subcaps with particular circumstances met. And then Dreads should kill carriers, and then all of those things die to supers. Like, you know, the escalation chain is just Dreads. That's what it is right now. I'd love to see more carriers. But then you see carriers on... the only time you see them right now is on Citadels.
Yeah.
So, like, the locking change would be great. I'm tired of Skynetting. Like, it's...
Yeah, it's
over
not...
it.
Yeah, it's there's better ways of using those ships, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your background, though. How did you get into EVE Online?
How did I get into EVE Online? Man, that's deep. I used to play a game called Pirates of the Burning Sea. It is totally not related to EVE Online spaceships. And it was a line ships game. So we're thinking sail ships. And it was an MMO. And you could get 6-on-6 group battles on the open sea, or when you reinforced a town or a city in the Caribbean, you would do like a port battle, and they were timed events, and it was 24-on-24. And you can probably find old YouTube videos of me on there. It was David Cook, Dayvid Cook, and I played for Britain, and I FC'd over there, and I was young. I was like itty bitty. I was probably like 11 or 12 when I got into FC'ing, truly. And I started playing EVE when I was 9. Like,
oh wow!
We're talking, I was playing this game when I was itty bitty.
How'd you get introduced to it? Was it a family member or friend? Or
it was a dude we played with over there, and oh god, I feel so bad for this company. It was Flying Lab Software and Sony, who used to run Pirates of the Burning Sea, and there was a expansion they did, and it completely tanked every metric. It was like if Fozzie Sov really, really, really failed. Like, everyone has a bone to pick with Fozzie Sov.
Right.
The game's playable.
Right.
They did an expansion, and it completely gutted the mechanics of the game in such a way. It was like how combat was done, how buffs and debuffs were done, how focus firing worked, how you took a thing. It was just crazy. It became pay to win, and so a bunch of people said, I want to find a new game. And then we had a dude, his name was, I knew him as Fatang, and he was Fatang in EVE Online. And him and a couple other people who played EVE before said, hey, you should come and check this out. And I was a new bro and deuce of it in like a week, and learning how to play. And then, I don't know, like 3 weeks in, we decided we're going to do Wormhole. Sitting in a belt in a wormhole, mining in my retriever, you know, as a new bro. And dude in a mana core decloaks, throws a bomb at me, and I die. And I was like, what was that? And I said, after that, no, that's what I'm doing. I want to kill people. And that's actually what got me into it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then it was, you know, after that, that's the story. I think I've been FC'ing probably we're actually on to 20 years now.
Oh wow!
I've been playing the game. Yeah, we probably hit 20 years now. I think my one tune, John was started in 04. So
yeah, you're just 21 almost years, like depending on dates and stuff like that. But yeah, the 20 years in Eve, and starting young. So now you're a full grown adult. You've gone through most of your life playing Eve, then, huh? So
it's a weird thing, man.
50 for me, because I started when I was like 19-ish. It was like 2003, so I was like just before I turned 19, I think, because it was because we did the beta, and like we had no clue what we were doing. And to be honest, I always say that I started in 2003 because I played the game for like 20 minutes. I was like, what is this? This looks cool. I don't want to mine for 5 years with my one mining laser and get some
It was like the old meme with the cliff and all the stick figures dying. Like that is the EVE Online I grew up in. And it is true. Like it was so harsh.
A little bit better.
It has. Like that, I would say that's a thing that is like a really great transformation that EVE has done, is that they realize that their player base will eventually age out of interest, and you need to quickly be able to cycle players in. I'd say that's one of the downsides in EVE is people can't just drop what they're doing, come play, versus a first person shooter where it's like it's a gun, it's a reload button, and go shoot that guy. The closer we get to plug and play for new players, that's kind of a good thing about EVE, is I think they're working towards that in some way. There's functions for it. But man, it's been a wild ride. Like someone brought that up to me. They're like, "You've been playing for 20 years." I'm like, "Ouch, that hurts." Thanks.
Awesome, yeah, and Derek says that they got their dad. Their dad started them young, and I've heard about this too, which is like the generational EVE that is out there of like, oh, this is the game I play now. This is the kid, this is the game my kids play. You got to wait till they're like 9 years older, they can figure out how to do some mining, and then
our head Diplo in like the number 2 in most everything I do in EVE. Kylie, she I remember playing with her. She had a baby daddy. Baby was had. Also EVE player. I think her daughter is in 6th grade right now. And we're like, what? Like, I was here for this whole thing, It's cool. That's again, that's another cool thing about EVE is you get, families, you get people who are married, you get
me and my wife play.
Or communities. Like, I play for communities. Like, COVID was tough, and it was a really great time to be with your online friends, like stuff like that. So yeah, EVE is interesting. You don't play for 20 years for no reason, I guess.
And the Arc High Tech says it's 1,000 times easier to get started now, and that's a good thing. Too many of us old talkers complain about that. No, I agree. EVE is one of the games that it is a cold and dark, hard universe. But like starting off, I think a lot of people complain a lot about the like skill injectors and stuff like that, and I think that the abuse of skill injectors is there. I think that CCP made a lot of crazy money off of the abuse of these like skill injectors. One person finished off every skill in the entire game, but that cost them like, I don't know, thousands of dollars basically in order to accomplish that. And really, the skills and your money in EVE is not what make you good at EVE. Like you can have some of the best gear in all of EVE, and like 2 people like jump in and be like, well, we got the counter to you. So
I mean, I've been playing for 20 years and I still suck. So
$27,000. Holy shit, that's just insane. But I think for new players, it became a way to, like, because the one thing that I think was the biggest turnoff to everybody that I ever talked to about EVE is they're like, well, I gotta wait 3 months before I can do anything.
100%. That's not the first time I've heard that either. I think people are, that's that I want to get in quick and go shoot something. I think everyone likes all those really cool videos of all the Titans Doom days and everything, and then they can't do that for years. Maybe, depending on timeline. I think you could get to somewhere where people can get built up quicker with their tunes, I think you can avoid that. There's a downside to that.
Yeah, no,
but I
and
think if you want to see the game live and be there, you need to encourage something like that.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, one of the big
a new
things
player to do a
was
thing.
that, like, because Carolyn Litch states out that, it's not entirely accurate that it takes you 3 months, like, because you can do a lot with just a frigate in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Which is totally doable. Even back in the day, though, had learning skills at one point where it was literally, like, people told you, like, start up the game, spend 3 months on the learning skills, getting everything to 5, and then you can start training stuff. And even then, when they removed that, it became much easier to kind of jump in. But getting those starter skill injectors, the idea that you could, especially since there's like a cap on, how much skill points you actually get back. It's like the beginning player is the one who's actually rewarded for skill injectors more than anything else. And it does allow them to try and do something in game to get progress. It's not that fast or very good comparatively to a lot of things that you can buy in EVE, but I think for a new player it does help out quite a bit, and it is really interesting to see the growth and the how to make EVE a little bit more accepting to the new player. So when you started off, you said you were in wormholes though, and you ended up getting jumped, and then started going out and murdering people. So did you stay in wormhole space, or what was like the first kind of PvP that you drenched yourself in?
Oh man, like this is going back. So we were in that wormhole, and I found out very quickly I am not consistent, nor my ADHD kicks in wormholes. I can't wormhole. If you're a wormhole player, you are 100% better than me at the game. You have more commitment to steps and procedures than I inherently do. I love to break rules, so like as my wife would say, her PDA kicks in. You tell her not to do something, she's like, "No, I'm going to do it." That's exactly how I do it. Except for wormholes, I couldn't get there. I ended up in nullsec. Pretty darn quick. I did low sec for a bit, but like faction warfare back then was not as captivating as it is now. Right now, I actually really do enjoy faction warfare, and I'm really glad that they made the changes they did.
Huge!
I think it took way too long to get there. But anyway, I digress. Faction warfare was fun-ish, but only because of the people. And then people were like, "Well, do you like, realm versus realm?" I'm like, "Well, what's RVR?" And they're like, "Well, okay, your group takes another group's thing." I was like, "Yeah, I like the concept of that." They're like, "Okay, what if you plant a flag and then like you guys are fighting over territory?" I was like, "That's really interesting." So like on paper, that was interesting. And so I ended up getting into nullsec, and so I was up north. We were like with Raiden and a bunch of other groups there for a bit. And actually, it was even before that. It was like Morse's Mihi, and there was like Mercenary Coalition, and like all these older groups.
Mercenary
I remember
Coalition was invading the north around that time, because 2004, 2005 was like the rise of Bob, the rise of Mercenary Coalition, the Northern Coalition. You might have. Did you ever see anything about Jade Constantine? I don't know.
Yeah. So like it's all that, and like I was up north, and like EVE Online combat back then was so. I'm so sorry to everyone who plays right now. It was so much more interesting. The micro transactions and the smaller alliances and all of the back end crap is what made EVE tantalizing. Like all the theft, constant theft.
It's still happening, but it's not really talked about.
It's talked about. Yeah, exactly.
It's not as because you get used to it. You're like, oh yeah, another guy took 50 billion ISK from somebody who cares. But the first 50 billion ISK, and if you take inflation into equate, that's like 5 trillion. It
was wild. It was no, it was pretty darn cool. It was, and I remember when passes were the way you lived, and regular stations, like the OG stations, like the old Mimitar station with the bar logo, and like all of those. Like anyway, that's when I got into it, and I was in a rental alliance. When I really started FC'ing, I was in a rental alliance. I didn't know we were renting at the time, but it was like IEGEX, Intergalactic Exports Group or something. And we were like someone's pet. We were like White Noise or someone's pet. We were a pet. And we ended up going and moving from Vale to Detorid. And we're hanging out in Detorid with Red Legion and RA when they were down there, and we were fighting like Noli Secunda and AAA and all that. And it was tell people, and anyone in my alliance is like, oh my god, he's gonna tell the story again. There was 46 DP in the regional to 77 S8, and you couldn't jump caps between there.
Yep.
But this was like the era of the Hurricane, when the Hurricane was just what everyone flew. It was the Munin back then, and it became every night everyone would form and just someone would jump that gate in Hurricanes, and it was just a brawl every night. And I mean every freaking night I was getting in a fleet, someone's fleet, and we were playing. And that got me into it. I was like, okay, I want to do this thing. It was probably my first bigger fleets, you know. And then I just said, hey, can I logi anchor? Can I scout? And then dudes were like, yeah, like you can do that. Like, do you want to? I'm like, yeah, that would be great. They're like, okay. And then one evening, the FC was like Sage EVO, and Sage got headshot. And then there was Iron Wolf, who is still in initiative. And then there's another dude, I forget his name. They all got headshot. And then they're like, okay, who's gonna start calling shots? And I was like, I'll do it. And I just started calling shots. And I was in like a rapier or something. Like back then we used rapiers and armor fleets for webbing. And they said afterwards, they're like, oh, you should do this more. You can do that. I'm like, oh, okay, great. You know, and that's how I got into it, really, truly. It's just
awesome, yeah.
jumping the gate in Hurricanes every night. Yeah, I remember that story vividly. Everyone's like, is that the kind of even today, I play in HFIs. They're one of my favorite doctrines. Just go get out in some HFIs. Who cares? Lose your Hurricanes. I don't care. Go have fun. They track like crazy. You can have fun with a few people. You don't need a huge alliance to do it, and just go vibe. And you can do them anywhere, you know. And then you're gonna lose. You're gonna fight someone in some blob of Feroxes or something, and you're gonna die. But like, you know, that's Eve. Just get out there, go shoot some. So that's how it happened.
Yeah. So tell me, what kind of experience have you had of late with? Since I'm a big faction warfare guy, I always like to hear about like what your thoughts are on faction warfare. Like, who have you been fighting for, and then what kind of experiences have you had with faction warfare since they really changed everything up?
So when they changed it, we immediately formed a small alliance. We were in Volta's sphere at the time. We formed a little short-lived Mimitar alliance, and it was Thucker Mix Theory, and we were really enjoying it for a time there. And I have tunes that will go unnamed that I have in Galente and some other places. When I get really bored some nights, I just go out on my own in a frigate. But we loved the changes, especially the battlefields at the time and like all that. You know, big LP generation was cool. We liked TFIs in the coalition, so we were like, oh, we'll just build TFIs. And working with like Fleet was cool. They're cool people. Bear is a fun guy. I talk to Young Puke all the time. I met most of my low sec friends really when we started doing that. And recently, at least, we've been fighting with like Big Yap and a couple dudes versus Frat in that war zone, and that's a whole mess. And like Sedition and all of them are, you know, all formed up in a little group fighting, and you know, SC's out there, and so are a bunch of other groups. But in terms of
the Mimitar Amar war zone is really heated up since as of late. I know that the Galente Warzone is cooled down. We still get fights and have fun and stuff like that, but we definitely don't have, like, I mean, SC is around and Snuff is around, but they're, you know, Snuff is there just to drop on, you know, easy targets and stuff like that, and, and take down, you know, they bring some content for sure. That's been some fun, and SC, you know, redropping on them and stuff. But you got Big Abe, SC, Snuff is moved over
I
there
wouldn't
as
call
well.
them all faction warfare either.
No,
like most of those
exactly.
groups, I wouldn't. But that's been my experience of late.
But they
Is
play in the
in that
faction
area.
warfare area, and because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
they're not necessarily participating in the NP or the PVE aspect of the faction warfare, but they're taking full advantage of. There's a lot of fleets that are flying around, a lot of small groups, a lot of dumb idiots that's flying around with their carrier, or other things that happen that I'm just going to take out my big toy and have some fun. And there's lots of really good small fights, and you said like going out and doing some solo PvP. That is one thing that with like the frigate solo PvP that I find out there is like the best. Like,
it's unmatched. Like there's a construct for it.
Right,
I absolutely agree.
Using the the scouts or whatever the hell they're called these named novices. Are they novices or scouts
Yeah,
anyway?
yeah.
I always,
well, even opens.
I'm so
I go
old.
into opens and have fun too.
Yeah, it's nice to have like a mechanical situation where it's designed for you to have somewhat of a one-on-one fight. You got to keep on checking scan. You might still get jumped by multiple people, but frigate fights are over in 45 seconds, which it basically is the amount of time that it takes you to warp, land, activate the gate, land, lock your target, and then it's like, well, that fight's over. And you see somebody coming in after you won your fight or lost, and you just get the fuck out. So, I find a lot of that. That's a lot of solo PvP. Multiple nights that I go out, I'll just like jump on for 30 minutes, and like you said, there's very little activities in EVE that allow you to just jump on for 30 minutes and get some action. And I feel like it's a hit or miss. Not all the time can I just jump on and get a fight in 30 minutes, but there's multiple times that I've jumped on and got 3 or 4 fights in like 30, like one-on-one, frig versus frig, different people. Like just constant, like little. I also do the thing where I'm hunted. I hate hunting. Like one of the things that pisses me off the most about hunting in EVE is chasing after people that don't want to fight. So you're just running around all the time, just hungry, just trying to catch your prey. You're chasing after them and shit. And at one point, I was just like, you know what? If I just sit in a plex and just wait,
someone come to me.
Yeah, somebody hungry is gonna come, and they'll be like, this guy's gonna run away. I'm gonna get in there as quickly as possible, and think that I'm just gonna be an easy target. And all of a sudden, like, oh shit, this guy's fighting back.
There was also the addition of the pirate factions was really. Oh God, it was really needed. Like I remember back in the day thinking, man, it would be so cool to like be involved in those factions or whatnot. And that was really cool to be in Angels for a bit. Really enjoyed that. Greastus is really cool. I think mechanically they can get a little bit better. I think there can be it feels like faction warfare is one-sided, and maybe I am incorrect in that statement, but it feels very much like the population is skewed in certain factions right now. And I think that has a lot to do with what is available in the LP store.
Yes.
Because,
pirate-wise, definitely. Like, it's much more... but the thing is that I find it's interesting because from a Galente kind of point of view, when it comes to, like, I do a lot of fleeting up. I do, Wednesday night fleets and stuff like that. We're definitely the tiny-ass group. But we don't deal with AWOXing.
That's true.
We don't have the.
That's true.
Our LP sucks. So why would you come over here to AWOX and try and make LP when you can go to Angels or Garistas or Kaldari or Ramar or Mimitar, all which have better LP than us, basically. And so we've always been a really tight knit group in Galente. And we've always been here for the fight type kind of thing. So you get you tailor your groups a little bit differently. Like, and the most ones that I know of course, are Kaldari, Garista, and Galente, because that's the war zone that I've entrenched myself in since the very beginning of faction warfare. And I would say that there's definitely a lopsided, but it doesn't matter as much on the war front, but it does come down to our LP isn't worth as much, and what we can, how to sell your LP becomes harder and stuff like that. For Agreed. Sure. But there are some good things from that. Like I said, LP You get weight walkers is not a problem. The people that you're interacting with are more likely to be there for the fight or for the fun rather than for the LP. Where you like Keldari is like 3 times larger than us when it comes to like what they're putting out onto the field, what's getting killed and what's being engaged and stuff like that. But we still find really good fights with them, and it's because we even though they have more people, they have a lot more farmers. So farmers aren't going to help
something to hunt there.
Right. Yep. It's something more for hunting and stuff like that. So it's definitely, there is a balancing act that goes on there. I think one of the biggest problems is, of course, the LP store in general. Is that the design of it is, you could technically spend 100,000 LP and make minus 2 million ISK. Like, like it's easy to like, screw up if you don't know what you're doing with the LP store and understanding what the prices are and everything. Because there's other ways of getting the items in the game. There should be, a much stronger focus, I think, on items that are only obtainable in the LP store and that
from your faction,
and let the other LP stores still be kind of like that, where it's it's because that's not your central form of ISK. That's something that's like this special little reward you get. You might be able to get these special faction items with this if you want, and you want to do some things. But in the one big thing is trading LP has finally made it so that there is like a quick injection of cash, but I think in Young Puke has been working on this really hard, is getting the LP wallet going, and that I think is the next big step to really allowing for us to have an easy way of exchanging our ISK, and then you don't even need to touch the LP store as much. It'd be nice to maybe balance them out a little bit, but I mean, Pirate's always going to be better because that's the design of it. So their LP is always going to be worth more, and it is a balancing act of that, which they have their own problems. It's not as easy to generate ISK in the Angels or LP in the Angels, not because it's not easy or it's not the same kind of thing. Although there's more options, I guess, technically, if you're part of the normal militias, but a pirate militia has to deal with the AWOXing and the desire for those to corner those markets and stuff like that. So
yeah, I agree with that. Me and Young Puke are only way to describe it, like privately, we both said, if we could be running mates, we would. He's a really good dude. I look to him for anything that has to do in y'all's world, because he has been so immensely effective at communicating, and we talk often. He's a really good dude, and I totally agree with the LP wallet. And the other thing for me is, like, you start to trace back what originally made the LP store and the items the way they are right now, and how you have to travel, and like CCP is trying to get those items and your ship physically out in space, therefore huntable, therefore there's a way to lose things. Risk is a big part of EVE Online. It always has been. I think risk is important. I think, however, people in different factions right now, I think you could drive population buildup in different factions by giving that faction something that all of the other factions don't have, truly. In maybe it's let's say Federation plates are the best plate, but then maybe the best armor dread right now is a Rev Navy, so that there's a BP that people want in Amar, but then there's specific modules in Galente that drive people there. I feel like there's an imbalance in what you see used most across different LP stores on different factions, and you might say that one faction or two factions are a lot more heavily lucrative, and I feel like the lucrative part could be balanced out quite a bit to make it potentially worth something there. It's interesting, and then like Angels has really freaking cool ships, and like the Titan is something. The BPCs are weird though. Like you can access Angel BPCs in nullsec space, and that actually floods the market versus going to an LP store to get something, but it's weird. Like I feel like CCP could give more thought to a streamlined approach to how you acquire items, and therefore give them intrinsic in a different way that then drives tunes to different factions. I bet like you could really derive it that way. Not to mention, I think faction warfare players should quickly be able to just turn their LP disc. I think like that is your bounty. It makes no sense to not be able to have something that's a click, or you say, I want to convert that to modules or items or commodities, and you go and you travel to grab it from whichever store you do. And in that case, I don't think you change it that much, you know. Yeah, faction warfare is a love-hate for me in a weird way. I think that's what I'm finding out right now. It's like some parts of it I love the content, and then there's other parts of it I'm like, well, my reward kind of blows.
Yeah, it's
or it
work,
can blow.
You know, and
it is work.
It's one of those things like it's a day one character with a little bit of knowledge. Like if you've got a mentor, it could come and do a bunch of defensive sites, make way more fucking money than you can make on level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4 missions. You can be an alpha character. You can have, you know, put out a under $1 million ISK ship. Like a 2 million ISK ship, and you're PvP ready, you know, with a 2 million ISK ship. You know, are you gonna win a lot of your duels? Probably not. Is somebody dumb gonna come along and you're gonna win one? Yes, because dumb people are like the commodity in EVE. This is one of the things that I think I love that dumb people play EVE. I love that people are dumb. I love that smart people are dumb when they play EVE. You know, like there's just a lot of that kind of thing. And the whole idea behind faction warfare is that it is an easy to get into, easy to access, really good, moderate amount of ISK that you can make. But the fight for that ISK is a huge hurdle. Like to get it from LP to ISK is where that hurdle comes in. And that's where, you know, it's kind of similar to like people talk about exploration. I make like, you know, 500 million ISK in exploration whenever I go out, and it's like, well, any new player that's going to be playing this game, even if they have a little bit of knowledge, they need a lot of knowledge to understand where to go and how to just farm the hell out of these things. Even then, you've got to get those items to market, you've got to sell those items, you've got to know what marketing is, you got to know how to sell items, where to sell items, you know, be able to get to Jeddah. If you're out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing, or any other trade up, or knowing that you can go to other places. Like I sell a lot of shit in Hades, especially like named modules, for example. Just regular named modules I can sell for, you know, 5,000% markup on price comparatively, because 10,000 ISK for the item in Dodixie is like, okay, whatever. But in Hades, if you put it up for 1 million ISK, they're like, oh, it's only 1 million ISK. But I need that module right now, and I'm not going to fly to Dodixie to fucking get one. Like, I'm not going to do a 12-minute journey when I can just spend a little bit of extra
You can
cash.
just grab it now.
Yep, and anything under about 1 million ISK is like, at least for me, and that I always like, my buyers, I'm looking for me to buy shit from me. You know, it's like, so whenever I think of like, when I throw up stuff, it's like, you know, look at the market, see what other people are putting up, but if there's, you know, nothing comparable, you can throw up stuff basically under 1 million ISK for any module. It's like, okay, this is a quick, easy, I need this module, I'm gonna buy it type kind of thing. But there is a lot of play inside of there. It would be nice to have a little bit more streamlined, or at the very least some kind of like CCP tutorial on the LP store, explaining how they think that the LP store should work. But I think that this kind of segues a little bit into the idea of, I kind of want to hear more about what is your platform that you're going to be running on this year, and what are the things that you're going to be advocating for?
Okay, so like there's that caveat, you've been here, is you can run on anything, but you know, CCP doesn't have it in their roadmap. You got to kind of be everywhere. You have to be willing to contribute to anything in EVE. So like anything I say right now is just something I'm passionate about, but doesn't mean I wouldn't represent it elsewhere or represent other things just as equally. That was something I learned in Run 1 and Run 2 from like CCP, Swift and Lumi is, that's just how you do. But platform-wise, for me, my platform has had to change. A lot of the things that I specifically like went for last year have been implemented through discussions with other CSMs. And so that was like PI changes and those sorts of things. So I found it actually quite difficult to find the things I want to really be passionate about, because a lot of those things have been touched recently, and that's really cool. To answer your question though, for me, it's about community. And I get a lot of flack for it being in a block right now because we joined Imperium recently, but I really like small and medium alliances. And you can support them anywhere. And I'll die on that hill. You can be in a block and still love small and medium-sized groups, because I would say, you just mentioned it, is actually like Galente faction warfare can be the lifeblood of faction warfare in small groups too. The size doesn't matter. There's a joke in there somewhere. The PvP content and where you get it can be any size and what you do. And so for me, we ran Vapor for the longest time as a mid-scale group, independent. That was our big thing. And recently we went and joined Imperium because we were getting gassed out by it. So a lot of my platform is about the reasons why we went and joined Imperium and other places. I feel like the entire Alliance and Corporation tab system can be updated and brought into the newer UI. I think it becomes a hurdle to start your own group. I remember when I first started my own corp, it was a lot. Those are things I'd love to see worked on. Anything that helps to grow a player base. Anything that helps a person want to do what I did when I joined Eve and become a content creator and go make fleets and go be a lot of people are like, oh, Rots is the cult of personality of Vapor. And that's very true, because I play the game and love what I do. And I offer specific, what you're going to get when I do a fleet. You need people to not be so disheartened by just the baseline mechanics to get involved and do a thing. And it's so the question I ask in a lot of my campaign is, how do you get a newer player in to start being a Rots Mijnwerker or, a Matani or an Asher or whoever runs these big alliances, Gobbins? How do you get them to that level? I don't think anyone actually knows that. It's not on paper. It's about community. So if you can grow communities and help people to make their communities, that's a win in Eve.
I do have to say that real quick on that kind of topic is that, one person that I've been talking to and working with to a small degree, he's gone off and is working more and has moved out of my area, but Frippy was, somebody that I find it's really interesting to see somebody who's got that mentality of, I want to do something big. I want to run an organization.
And being so new to the game.
Completely new. Running for CSM, pushing, got his own alliance, built a coalition. That coalition fell apart. Perseverance and just fucking do it attitude gets you a long way.
And it's rare nowadays.
It is.
You just don't see it. People don't feel they can. And bravo to him. I love Furby. He ran last year when me and you ran.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that was his first campaign.
Yep, that was his first campaign. I was
really
if you're
cool,
going to do this, you got to do streaming. You can build up a base
you gotta
that
do the whole
way.
thing.
And so he started streaming. Me and him talk a lot on the side and stuff like that. I was working with him on some coalition stuff, but then he ended up moving out to, I have really good friends inside of Get Off My Lawn. And so we worked with the diplomat Shinji, the best Logi in the entire fucking galaxy, and he is fucking epic. He got him in to Get Off My Lawn and stuff like that, and been building up. And I do have to say that a lot of Eve is just pushing yourself into spaces that people say you can't be.
Correct.
Correct. It's because even when it comes to 0.0 and stuff like that, if you want to take some land out in 0.0, is it going to be easy? Is it going to be successful? Maybe not. But it's something you could try and do, and
Uh-huh.
that motivation, that push to try and claim some space or get your, and then it opens up diplomatic avenues. Like one of the big things
Mm-hmm.
with Eve is that, like you say with community, it's not just community; it's community with communities.
Yeah,
And
it's communities interacting with other communities. Yeah,
so
for
you can
sure.
build up a small little community and then start interacting with bigger communities in order to get part of that, either become part of that bigger community, become enemies with that bigger community, like there's a lot kind of plays that there are. Yeah, you miss every shot you don't take.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about a magnificent beard. That's true. I only got a little
Oh,
itty bitty goatee here, but you've got the beautiful real beard.
it's
That does pull a cult of
it's grown.
personality.
I mean, it used to be, you can see what I used to look like. Anyway, it's the baby face. That's what I'm hiding. Um, yeah, you actually mentioned the community versus community thing. The other part of, I guess we'll say, the platform here is the P word, that terrible projection word. Like for me, I'm getting more 0-0 here. I think jump bridges should be reviewed a little bit more. I
They
think
used to have a timer on them that used to give you jump fatigue. Everybody fucking hated
yeah,
that. That's a
they
little
hated it
rough.
at the time. Yeah,
But
I
it
was.
really, I mean, it makes the space way shorter. Like
It
if you only have to
does.
go 5 jumps to go 50 jumps, that's fucking
And
insane.
that's like, I'm in a block, right? And I have learned a lot since being here. Everyone's like, oh, you're not in a position to represent small and mid scale groups. Actually, I'm probably in a better position than all y'all because I've been everywhere now. And it's pretty quick. I can get anywhere I want. I'm like, ooh, like you can move a lot really quick. I'm not saying they should move that quick. And I remember being like a C group. So we were in Scalding Pass. Or scalding donkey. You can use the other slur. Scalding ass. Yeah, there, I said
Yeah.
it. So we really enjoyed our time there, but like we had to set a clock. It's like, okay, fight has started. We have dropped a dread. Let's see when Big Gap gets here. And this is when Zarzak was going on. It's like, okay, when is In It going to appear through Zarzak? When is and it was usually like, I don't know, 10 minutes. It was like immediately you had a tune. 10 minutes is not long. That's 2 siege cycles. I like on with no tie-dye. And it started to be like, okay, projection could be an issue if smaller groups are fighting. Like everyone started third partying because it was content. Fight is a fight anywhere you go. I don't blame people for wanting to get in on a fight. I think people who start the fight should have the ability to enjoy the circumstances that they started that fight with a little bit longer, if that makes any sense. I think time is a factor. If you can slow down the amount of time that large groups of players can move, you probably benefit smaller and mid-scale alliances. I think the diplomacy and standings tab should be completely overhauled. And I get a lot of flack for like, do I think that standing should cost something? I think being blue to someone, like large groups of players being blue to each other, right now there is nothing that dissuades those groups from doing that. So how do you perhaps dissuade people? What is the cost and benefit analysis of having blue standings? Right now, it is you should just do it because it costs nothing to have all of your friends gang up. I think it should cost something. How that looks, I'm really interested in data from CCP, things I don't totally have access to right now. Sovereignty mechanics for me, I was a 0-0 guy. I think Sov mechanics right now are horrendous, and I won't stay on that for too long. I think they kind of blow. My real big things a lot of people don't ask me about is like PvE and industry. For me, metnoxes, I think, are something that could be looked at. Right now, you see like R4s and R8s and R16 goos have kind of plummeted because before...
everywhere.
Yeah, metnox is everywhere that just draw... well, they only draw 40%, but it's 40% of all the goos on that moon.
Yeah,
versus before, it was like everyone everyone would mine the high stuff on the Athenor and not mine the low end. So there was a cost... there was an inflated cost on the lower goose because there was a
and even
shorter
that
stack.
Because how many of them were actually getting mined? Especially in low sec, because low sec like had 0.0, and high sec, which I don't think there's just R4s in high sec.
I think so.
But
Yeah.
so,
And I'm not the guy to ask, but yes, I believe
and I
so.
think those are just regular moon material, or just regular Veldspar or whatever. Like, it's like some basic things. But the idea of low sec moon mining, like, unless you were Snuff or friends with Snuff, or one of those larger organizations, which doesn't spread very far when it comes to that. Like, with the Metanox, it can spread all over the fucking place because, like said, one, you get timers and stuff like that, so you can get your shit over there after they attack it and go, okay, well, we'll just defend it when the timer is up. But even in the midst of an attack, you can get, halfway across the galaxy in 5 minutes if you have everything set up for you. So,
and not to mention, just like some of it isn't like totally worth it. So like now you've got moons that everyone just met Noxes, and your baseline moons have no value because the prices have plummeted. But then it starts to, it all feeds into this, like, I wish they kept that industry economy guy at CCP that they had like 15 years ago, because man, he would have been like, hey, this is not good, because back then we always hated him. He was like, we're gonna turn off the faucets, and actually he was moderating the faucets. I think right now you have a little bit of an imbalance. I'd like to see it adjusted. Metanoxes for sure, but then it goes into how mining works. A lot of people are like, what do you feel about, I got asked this yesterday, how do you feel about the Rorqual? I want the Rorqual to still feel more like the Pinnacle mining ship that it is. I'd love to see maybe not a buff, maybe a nudge. Nothing huge. I don't want prosperity. I don't want pre scarcity. Where you're buying supers for 8 bill. But then I'm also an advocate for cheaper things. Cheaper things means more fighting. I don't know. Those are the things I care about in indie and that kind of stuff. Then it was like ship balancing, and there's some other stuff in here, and you can see my campaign post. For what is actually really relevant to your group and like groups in LowSec and in faction warfare, I would love to see a missioning overhaul. As a person who is just really hard to get hooked on something, I have seen the same missions over and over, and some arcs that I've done that I love. I would love them to bring more dynamic things into missioning, like truly.
The one thing that you have to be careful,
I get so bored
with faction warfare missions, at least, is that faction warfare missions were a bane on faction warfare, actually, because it was.
Oh no, I agree with that. I do.
You couldn't PvP it very well. You could kind of, but like if you go into a faction warfare mission and your enemy is running it and you jump in, even your people that are supposed to be on your side are attacking you. Like that the NPCs, you had to have a different fit, and the design of it was really easy for like stealth bombers and other type of really cloaky fast ships just to get in there, do the mission, and get out. It's extremely hard to stop people from missioning. Now, it didn't influence like the war front at all, and was just a big ISK payout, or an LP payout, basically. But the one thing that I do think is that there's a lot of ways to change up mission running so that it is more of a PvP friendly type kind of environment. You don't need super expensive ships to bring out there. You can mess around with it a lot more with the cheaper ships and have a much more design of, send you to the front lines. All missions go to frontline systems and bring you to a spot, and then put you in a situation where you're not able just to go off of the button really far where you come in on and stuff like that. It was an interesting idea, but I think that overall the missions is something that hasn't been outside of faction warfare, and even with faction warfare is that it hasn't been touched in forever.
Yeah, it's pretty archaic. It's pretty archaic.
It's ancient.
And like the other thing, like there's so much. It's like CCP. There is potential here. Get a really cool person who loves to write stories. Then get someone who really cares about making micro interactions between communities, and say, okay, we're gonna have a set of missions and different options that have inherent risk attached to them. You actually just touched on this. Like, okay, the most risky mission will put you in the frontline systems. It'll be ungated. It'll have a massive reward, though. This is something like Young Puke really agrees with, is you should be if you're having inherent risk attached to something you do, and it is very risky, you should very likely have the potential for a high reward. I think that, like, that chain, like, if you say, hey, here's a mission escalation chain, that's it. But man, like, the basic stories, like, I don't know, I can see the same thing a million times and still not be into it. And then when the word grind comes to mind, you know, oh, I'm grinding standings, or maybe I want tags or whatever it is. And right now tags are broken too. Like, we could get into that, but like, there's all kinds of things I think missions could be left on a fair bit, because I remember the days in the lore. It's fun that you mentioned earlier about, I think it was Eve Echoes and a couple of the other things that are like, maybe not Echoes, sorry. It was the, why can't I remember it? Is the novels
City?
that the graphic novel, thank you. And all of these are made by third party. You know, like they're people who have done these because of things the players have done, and that in and of itself should warrant, you know, the popularity of those and how much people love them should warrant someone looking at missions and saying, let's make storyline. Let's throw storyline at everyone. Let's give them something.
Take a tip from Paradox. I don't know if you played like Stellaris. Like,
I love Stellaris. Yes,
Stellaris is that it's not about. It is about, like, the gameplay is fun. You know, like, I mean, it's one of the best 4X strategy games ever invented. You know, it leans on to the hardness of the grand strategy genres that they've all used, but they've toned it down to a 4X. Everybody starts on the same kind of playing field. Which is very different than any of their grand strategy games, but it becomes sort of a grand strategy game as you get going. But the story's in there. I mean, like, the Event Horizon,
and they keep adding.
They hired a specific person with the Sea of Stars or something like that.
It's so cool.
Brought that guy on just for that mission. It was like, here, like, do this.
It's whole thing. The right thing to do. Like, if you're really wanting to grow something that keeps people hooked, you know, what's the closest thing to a captivating TV show? What's your Game of Thrones of EVE Online? It's your missions. Like, give people tailored storyline. And, like, I think they're trying to do it with, like, some of the events, but I find events to be frustrating.
There's
a lot of
short
times
period of time that you can do them in. Like, you know, I've got real life that you know, like, it's nice to know that. The one thing that I've always kind of advocated for, because I remember when Epic Arcs came out, and they were like, we're going to make a fucking million of these. These are going to be like everywhere. It's really easy for us to code these. Like, we've got a whole system for it. And then they came out with like 5 or
like
6 or something like that. Like, I know it's about the 4 empires, the 4 so 8, 9. I think there's 9 altogether, if I'm remembering correctly. Unless the Empire ones are on their own. So there's Empire ones there's 4 Empire ones.
Yeah, there's 4
pirate ones. 4 or 2. Maybe there's only 2. Is there only 2?
There might be only 2.
I think there's only 2. I think it's Angels and
4 faction SOE and the pirates. Yeah. Okay, it's set. Okay,
2.
So
2. So 7,
we're not far off.
Yep.
But like, it's under 10.
It's under 10 when they were promised a lot. And this is something they've not iterated upon at all. They've not come out with new Epic Arcs. And those are kind of interesting things. Like, they're only doable every 3 months. If there was like 15, 20 of these that had like a storyline behind them, and it, you know, like it was intriguing story. One of the things that I would like to see too is like a little bit more voice acting in like storyline missions or like special missions. Also, storyline missions, can we like make them like something special? Like,
and have a special reward at the end, like a mission item that, you know. I'm not saying mods on ship. Let me just, because I disagree with this. It should not be an unkillable mod on a ship. It should be like, I don't know, a case of Fedos or something. Right. Like, I don't know, but like,
maybe
give me something.
A little something in there that you can, you know, mess around with. But like right now, the storyline mission is literally just the extra mission that I get that I just churn in like a little bit of ore, or maybe do like a slightly easier than a level 4 mission when I'm doing level 4 missions. So yeah, it's
And you were mentioning like voice acting, like dude,
yeah,
like
and
get
that
it
stuff
up
is
into
cheap now. Like, I mean,
we
come on,
were
like,
in
you don't even need a real
2025.
actor. Get the fucking, like,
Get the streamers, get some other people. Like
somebody.
there's
I mean,
people who
at
would
the
do
very
this.
least, get AI. I mean, fuck, everybody's using AI for goddamn everything. You might as well give me some.
Could
voice.
you imagine me as a mission? It would be terrible,
Oh,
but I would
it'd
do
be
it.
great,
I would do it
man.
in a
That'd be
heartbeat.
great.
It'd be
That'd
hilarious. But no, like for real, like it's give me some story. That was one of my other things in the campaign. Is like I would love, because I think that missions are one of the first things that new players experience. They experience something that is something similar to a mission. Now, I did the
I just
MPE
have
recently.
to say real quick. Somebody pointed out Clear Skies. The CCP
Yep.
needs to needs to work with those guys to make a Hollywood level movie of in the theater, because I feel like Clear Skies 3 especially got to the level where it's I'd almost sit down in a movie theater and pay $20 to sit down in a full-on movie theater to watch this shit. That's some grade A top
it is so true
fucking stuff that
like,
just is missing out there, and that could be
you
part
get,
of the game.
You get really frustrated when you start to, a lot of my players do, when you start to consider that CCP has in effect a gold mine. They have something that generates and has people generating real life iskies to play. People, generally speaking, buy into most things related to the game within reason. No one here likes pay to win. Everyone here likes pay to play, or not pay to play. I pay for something and I get Plex to use on something else to play the game. I think they've balanced some things. They have a history of sometimes doing some weird shit with the boxes and different things in the store. What I think people could really enjoy is Eve going the reverse. So instead of being a game that started from a movie that was popular, is you have a game that's popular that now you've got supporting marketing and experiences and shows and all that. I mean, you could partner with people to do that. That is something they could do. Right. It really is.
It's gotten to the point now where it's kind of laughable that CCP's gone all crazy on all these other video games when they could have used other media outlets and media systems in order to promote Eve instead. And that's they've spent ungodly amounts of money on a massive backlog of games that they have put out there. That have all fallen on their face when they could have made a movie that, even if it fell on their face, but it could have it would have everybody knows about I don't know what's a failed movie, the
Mortal Engines.
I
love that. I actually like the movie.
I actually have seen Mortal Engines. Yeah,
and it's my mentor in real life worked on it. He said we're never going to do a second one. I'm like, you think so? He's like, the books rock. Go read them.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, it's an advertisement type kind of thing that they could do. There's a lot of kind of room for that to kind of grow. So one thing that I wanted, before we wrap things on up here, I want to make sure that we have some time to... one thing that I wanted to ask real quick is, because we've talked a lot about your strength, what do you think is your area that you are not very familiar with in Eve? Is there anything in Eve that you feel like, I haven't really touched that, and I wouldn't comment about it? I'd learn about it or something like that, but is there anything that you're not the one that would be speaking first when it comes to some changes that would happen in the game?
Oh, 100%. So I'm not going to speak to high-sec affairs. I'm just not. It's not my gameplay. If you're someone that does war mechanics, I'm not your guy. I don't understand it. If you wanted to declare war on me, I might. I know that I can blow up a station, and that might stop that. That's it. I'm not going to be able to easily speak to groups in low sec who are, and I'm looking at when I partner and talk with Young Puke about things, and with people from smaller alliances than my own, I'm doing that because I'm acknowledging that I am not the perfect representative. But if I'm on there, I may as well be prepared to. So how Big Ab plays the game and how low sec, if anyone has anything against this, I'm sorry, but low sec does have better fights than we do in null. I don't know how
right
to
now,
tell you
I
that.
would say, I mean,
Like,
just from the
they
news, from
do.
what I've experienced, like,
They are willing to throw down. How those people got there and how they built up their wealth and that kind of stuff. I'll admit I'm the poorest Steve player, so don't look at me for that. But I will acknowledge where I am good at things and where I'm not. And those are some things that I'm not good at. Is I am not good at representing, alliances like Big Ab or Sedition. Your larger faction warfare fleet right now. That's not me. Your alliances that are larger faction warfare. That's not me. I don't know how you guys do it. At least from I think as an alliance leader, because I do run one, it's how they fund that. I know how to fund our gameplay with in-game ISK where we're at. But how you guys do that collectively, and you know what? A lot of people will tell me, a bunch of people just don't give a damn and they just go do it.
Yeah,
and that's the fun thing about
too.
Eve and other places. And it's old money, but the other, you asked that question, I'm like, hey, here are my first things I'm not good at. And I'm also not good at wormholes. I have played in wormholes, but I'm going to look at Mick. Mick Fight Master is who I would go to. And he's who I went to last year. Our ticket in Vapor, our ballot in Vapor was you, Mick, YP, and it was a whole bunch of independent groups. And then, maybe the next block candidate that was at least representing some of what we do. And that really, truly is how I think any CSM should be. So they should be open to saying, okay, I suck at this, and here is who I think I'm going to lean to learn more about
that's
it.
A big
or,
one. Yeah,
that's... So for me, I already have my group of people that I would lean on for a lot of these issues, but I'll name exactly who they are. So anything on Young Puke's platform is probably something I've asked him about. I'm like, hey, what is that? Sadow's another one. I should mention Sadow. Then there's, Mike Azariah, Kashal with new player experience. I'm not going to be the first person to say that MPE is something I am absolutely professionally versed in. However, I've done it because I learned from her last year, hey, I need to do this more often and understand it. It's truly, it's about those issues for me that I don't know. And so you'll see who I surround myself with.
That's a really good answer.
Who I'll mention.
You surround yourself with, there's the idea of, if I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, somebody else knows what the fuck is going on in this
that's
area.
The spirit.
And that's let me lean on that, and that comes back to community. That comes back to community on community type thing. I may not like the high sectors, I just want to blow them up, but if
there's anyone that's
not friends, I still want to talk to them because find out how they play the game and stuff. Opening up those channels of diplomatic communication is really huge.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody that you wanted to shout out specifically? I know Young Puke has come up, and I had a really great interview with him. And
I'm glad you interviewed him. I didn't even see it. He's a cool dude.
It was a really great interview, and I tried to get him on last year. He was very busy last year. And I was actually able to nab him in this year. Actually, he reached out to me, which was, I feel like this year I've got a little bit more clout behind me, where I'm okay, I'm getting lots of people reaching out to me.
I can tell you in the CSM Discord, someone asked, where do you guys, they were a new CSM candidate. They're well, where do you get your streams? And everyone made a list, and I added you, and there was a bunch of people I brought you up. So I would be very surprised if you don't get a lot more people.
Yeah, and there was about now that the list is out, now I can start hounding down, because I was waiting for the list to come out before hounding down people, and
it was a while.
Before the list even came out, as soon as they announced that you could sign up, I had lots of people that were I know I'm getting accepted. It's not. To be honest, the barrier of acceptance is nothing. I mean, you gotta reveal some real life information about yourself. You have to,
not violate the EULA, and that's about it.
You can't have violated the ELU at a certain amount of time or something like that. There's if you've been fucking around and doing bad shit, yeah, you might need to.
You should be on CSM.
Getting in trouble, breaking the rules of the game, which is very hard in Eve, comparatively to many other games. We're very open to just don't be multi-boxing with input commands and stuff like that is the big one. Botting stuff like that is what will get you hit really hard. And of course, like harassment and stuff like that is, a problem for being a CSM member, of course. But the barrier of entry, I mean, you've basically been playing this game. I think it's 1 month or 2 month in game that I think your character does need to be like a certain age, but
Yep.
it's very, very, very low.
It's like much different than the old days, because back then there was like really specific. I went and looked at them, the rules. But no, it's pretty darn easy to get into it. Yeah, you mentioned who I would shout out. So if people want to, like, I'll be the first person to support my peers. You can go on to their forum links, and these are people that I've been looking at. And I'm like, I like that platform. It's probably someone I want to work with. And in no particular order. It's Sven Bauer. I've got Young Puke, Dujek, Drake.
Dujek was on. He was super cool. Drake was on. He's super cool.
The Peace News.
I love Kashal. Like I got interviewed by her. She interviewed me. Like
she's a great person.
Does a lot of content for that. It really pissed off that she didn't get in last year.
Yeah.
Because like I know that she got the appointed seat last year, one of the 2 appointed seats, not last year, the year before that. And she's very close to being, so, definitely somebody that's going to be very high, if not one of the top like there's a lot of top contenders right now for my top level of my ballot, so I've got to reevaluate.
It's a tough thing to do. That's why I'm like, I'm not going to give you who my top is right now. There's like, but there's the Puce Moose. I can never say his name. Angry Mustache. I've always loved everything he does. Oz is a great one. And then there's, like we mentioned, Frippy, and then Mick Fightmaster. If you want to support someone needs to support a wormhole candidate right now. Like I don't care who you are. Like someone vote for a wormhole candidate. If that's one of the things you do, you need to do that. Think about everyone who is running and think about what they really care about. And the reason I say that is you can be anywhere in EVE, but because of how the game works, the mechanics are laid out. Supporting someone in low sec supports you in null sec, supports you in high sec. Like the way the economy runs, all of that matters. And especially if you're a PvP player, you want people in low sec to have success and feel like they're represented, and that some of the mechanics they want to have change, so that you have more places to go hunt and go kill things. I think a lot of people lose that. They're like, oh, it's all nullsec candidates. I don't think it should all be nullsec candidates. I will acknowledge that nullsec candidates have a lot more weight behind them inherently. So if you're one of those people, who do I vote for?
Now on the CSM, which is
it's pretty 50-50.
Nice, pretty nice comparatively to what it used to be. One of the things that I think is really huge with the voting thing is to remember how little the amount of people vote. Even people are like, oh, nullsec blocks are the ones that's dominating. There's a tiny fraction of the nullsec people actually voting. And even then, the high sec outnumbers almost all of EVE at this point when it comes to actual but the thing is that normally those people aren't entrenched in somebody telling them to vote. Or even know that the CSM is going on or something like that.
It's weird how the game mirrors real life some days.
Yeah. No, it is. It is it's even way worse. One of the things that I advocate for, number one is get out and vote. Make sure you're voting with all of your characters. Make sure you put the number one is not the person necessarily that you absolutely desire one. I mean, yes, you should put the person that if you have somebody that you're like, this is absolutely who I want my vote to go to, put them in the number one spot. But remember, it's rank choice. So if I usually put up my top people are going to be the people that I'm much more likely to think that they're not going to get in if they don't get my vote. And then, odds will be, on there probably, but probably maybe down to the bottom, because I feel like Oz is going to get on there because he's got his base. I know any of the 0.0s are usually not going to be on my ballot because I I think they've already got their top slots picked up.
Yep.
So I'm going after, like, Kashal is a big one for putting on top because I think she really deserves to be on the CSM. I think that she's done a lot of work.
But the weight of a number one vote matters for someone like Kashal.
Exactly. Like, that's huge because that's what keeps her in the game, to be able to get if you put her lower on your ballot, if she doesn't get enough number ones, if you put her at number
she'll
5,
never see your base vote.
You never get to it if you have a bunch of people that are just automatically grabbing up those votes. Now there is the flow over of the, this guy got, way too many votes, so now we'll go down to the number 2, but that usually goes down 1 or 2 or 3 slots. Like,
and it's normally, it's gonna be like a block vote, so like, they did you guys can go look if you're like, what is ranked choice voting? Swift did a great explanation of it during the Alliance tournament last year. There was that segment, they go over it, and you could watch, people who voted for, let's talk about Goon Swarm candidates, people who voted for, say, Angry Mustache or Zintage, and how those votes trailed. They're like, oh, well, this, a lot of people who voted for Zintage also voted for this one. Well, duh, that's blocks. They voted for the candidates. So if you're like really supporting of particular candidates that aren't aligned with the groups that you don't care about, don't throw the groups you don't really care about or the representation you want anywhere higher than bottom last.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you care about new players, vote for K-Shaw. If you want to, vote for small candidates, find those candidates, put them up high. Low sec, great. Put YP up there. There's a few. I would look into those candidates. There's a lot of them this year. I don't know. I think this is a record this year.
Yeah,
I think we've broken the record.
Way over what it was last year. I know that for sure. Because I think we had like 42 or something like that last year, the magic number.
If you want to think like total percentage chance of being in CSM, I think it's like 20% chance that you might see, like, if you base value, 20% chance of seeing Rots on there, because like there's 12 spots and 56 candidates, something like that. Like, it's a big pool of people. There's a lot of options. Read through it, take the time. It's an interesting system how it works.
One thing I will say, though, is I advocated for this for last year, and it's something that I'm always just going to advocate whenever CSM comes up, is CCP, get in the fucking game. There should be no reason why you have to go to a separate website, that CSM is all out of game type kind of activity. I feel, and I mean, I'm kind of biased on this because I do CSM interviews, but there should be like, here's all the interviews, at the very least, this, maybe not the third parties because you're worried about favoritism or whatever. But there should be a list of like here's all your candidates, here's all, like, in game, not go to the forums, because people don't go to the fucking forums anymore. People don't go to the website anymore.
It's archaic.
Like, yeah, like, everything needs to be in game. It should be a pop-up that shoves in your face, and it should be like, hit this button, click here so that it never pops up again if you actually don't want to vote. But it should be in your fucking face. Like, like the technology is there, man. Like, this isn't fucking, real world voting for president. Like, this is your digital avatar. You have an account that you have to sign up for, and you get that vote, and you can vote 20 times if you have 20 accounts. Now, your accounts do need to be activated for, like, I want to say, like, a month or 2.
Yeah,
like
there's
need to be an
time
active.
there, yeah.
And I believe you do need to be subscribed to get a vote.
You need to be Omega.
So there are some hurdles in there. But it should be something that should be shoved in these people's faces. Like, there's a fucking player election going on. And considering that Eve is the only one to fucking do this, like, no other game are you going to go to that there's a player elected council by the players.
It just doesn't happen.
Is going to Iceland, going to the headquarters, having sit down meetings multiple times a year. All throughout the year, heavy communication with the developers and stuff like that. Like, there's some of that, but not elected. This is impossible.
Agreed.
Because what other game is single shard?
Yeah, there is very little out there that does what this does. So man, I would anything they can put in game. But then there's things that like, I don't like. I would love that in game, but I don't want the new mapping tool they're doing. I don't know how to tell them, but like for me, an in-game map is not actually what I use when I go out hunting. I use Dotland because I can open it up separately. But man, for like voting, have it in their face. They log in, boom, log in, give them a reward for voting. Give them a login reward for voting.
Giving
like,
a reward for voting would be even huger.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes actually
like
technically a penalty for not voting. It's, you're not getting what everybody else gets. That's the so yeah, that's super awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything that we missed that you want to talk about before we wrap things on up here?
I think for me it's just, hey, take the time. Hopefully everyone here looks through all the candidates, but I'll talk about me. I am a small community candidate, small mid-sized community candidate in a block. That is crazy.
Are you working
relatively
with
novel.
Imperium at all to try and get on their ballot?
Yes, and like I haven't pushed that. I've never really pushed them. Like the people who added me in the last 2 years when I was independent added me because they believed in the platform. I actually really would rather. I mean, this is a weird thing with me, is I'd rather people vote for me because they read the thing and they believe in the thing versus I'm in their block. I don't disagree with being put low on a ballot if they decide to put me low on the ballot. Doesn't mean I might not get in, sure. But I would not say I generally represent all of block candidates or block members. Some of the things I am representing would change how we do things in nullsec. But I really believe that to have a long-term game that we all enjoy, some of these things got to be looked at. So hopefully that doesn't dissuade you. I hope you guys vote for me. And then also check out the other people mentioned. Like if you want, again, if it's a wormhole candidate, it's Mick. If it's a low sec candidate who has proven time on the CSM, it's Young Puke, and I can't say enough about those two. They rock. And Angry Mustache, Oz, people who have different facets, and you find those people that don't know what you're doing, and then lean into them, learn from them.
And you would say that
be my parting thing.
Your facet is much more of how to grow small communities, working with small communities, growing them into being able to become part of a bigger part of the game.
Yep, and mechanics that would let them do that, having learned from experience now, being kind of anywhere. Those are the things I'm really passionate about, is small groups and mid-sized groups, and I have no problem representing them if there's an absence of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really great. We've gone quite over time because I love talking with you. You're really easy. Like, to be honest, I feel like we've only been talking for like 30 minutes. It's been an hour.
It's been an hour and a half, yeah.
So, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great to get interviews because it always varies sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, man, it's been 45 minutes. And I feel like I've been here for an hour and a half, and I'm just pulling teeth. And some people are really, one of the big things that I kind of look for when I'm talking to people about what I'm trying to divvy up my vote for, because we don't have a very big block. I got, I don't know, like 100 and some odd votes or something like that were had me on the ballot, and other, we've got hundreds-ish of people that listen to the show and stuff like that. But I still I want to come up with a ballot and be like, here's, like, you don't have to follow this, but this is what my suggestion based upon all these interviews that I've done. Big thing, I think, in CSM that needs to be very looked at a little bit differently, and as I go through these interviews, I kind of think about this kind of stuff, is that you've got to be personable, and not just personable, but talkative, like not dominating the conversation, but like being able to have conversations and talk to people about what you're thinking, about what you want, and being able to create like a really good communication line. is really important in politics, and especially in video game politics, in this CSM kind of thing, because you've got to be able to put your point across. You've got to be able to make it feel easy to talk to you, is very important. And these interviews, I feel like, bring out that in some of the candidates, where you can see that there are some candidates that are it's harder to talk to them, which means that it's harder to get information from them, which means it's harder to work with them on different things. And some are really just like, you're just like, oh, it's like hanging out with a buddy, and I don't even know. Like, I mean, we've talked a few times before, but like, it's great to, using that charisma and stuff like that, the natural communication abilities is very important.
It helps. And I think, does.
Just based off of the conversations that I've had with you, you're going up pretty high on my list. It's going to be really rough for me this year.
I'm so sorry. Vote for me. So sorry. No, it's easy to come on and hang out. So thank you for the opportunity. I do really appreciate it, as always.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you all for watching and hanging out here. We had a really good sizable crew, and I think that, to be honest, I think you brought in a lot of these people because people want to hear from you. So I think
they're fun. Anyone who's here, thanks for being on this. This guy rocks. He runs a really, really great stream. Like, check him out. I watch quietly a lot.
Yeah, I one of the big things that I do is that I don't stream a lot. But when I stream, I want it to be impactful. Like it's my stream fleets, my podcast, and these interviews and stuff like that. So, and thank you so much for the follows that we've got today. Tan, thank you so much for following. Thank you all for watching, and have a great night. We'll get you on over. We'll do some rating here because we got some solid people. Yeah. So.